Hey everybody, what's going on? For today's review, we'll be taking you out on a test drive in the newly refined 2012 Ford Mustang GT 5.0 Premium California Special. The purpose of our test drive today is to demonstrate the overall road manners of the California Special in both city and highway driving conditions. Throughout the test drive, we'll be discussing many of the powerful performance details of the all-new engine, as well as taking a look at a few of the special interior creature comforts that this vehicle has to offer. So, now that we have all this new information in mind, let's go ahead and crank up the beast, see how she runs. Our review unit today has the non-metallic black clear coat exterior, complete with a special charcoal black leather interior, with a special type of leather now known as natural grain leather, giving a more carbon fiber-like appearance, and it's significant only to the California Special. And let's go ahead and set you guys up and take you out on a drive. Always have to buckle up, safety first. And let's get her done. Now I'll try to keep our ride today as smooth as I possibly can, but bearing the fact that this California Special has sport stiffened suspension and the roads are not in the best of conditions, well, it might get a little rough at times, but like I said, I'll try to be as smooth as I possibly can. Soundtrack. I'm sorry I wasn't talking like I usually do at first, because there is just nothing like that beautiful throaty soundtrack of that big V8 up front. So now for a little bit of performance data that most of you may already be familiar with, but for those of you who don't know, let me give you a little update on what's happened to this new Mustang. The all-new 5-liter V8 not only pays tribute to the 5 liters of yesteryear, but is also one of the most powerful production Mustangs on the market today, with the exception of the Shelby GT 500 and the new 2012 Boss 302. As far as power goes, you get an amazing 412 horsepower and upwards of 390 pound-feet of torque. This is enough to give the car enough accelerating force to nail 60 miles an hour in less than 4.5 seconds if you shift it right. And even though it's a big thumping V8, you'd expect, it to suck down gas like you wouldn't believe. In the city, it's actually quite fuel efficient, and on the highway, it's even better. City miles per gallon ranges anywhere from about 15 to 17 miles per gallon, with a highway rating of 26 to 27 miles per gallon highway. And that's all down to the new twin independent variable cam timing system that Ford has just introduced for many of their new engines. Now, believe it or not, this is actually not a old 5-liter like you might think of. When most people think of a 5-liter V8, most who have known Mustangs for a while will often drift off in thought back to the mid-90s when the 5.0 left the Fox body and continued on into the SN95 series Mustangs. And even so, they've decided to up this power and everything to make a much more powerful Mustang and a much more performance-oriented car. This California Special even ups the performance ante even more now that it has an aluminum strut brace that graces over the top of the engine underneath the hood. Counteract that with the 19-inch graphite-coated aluminum wheels and optional sport-assisted steering. It's certainly oriented for the performance driver and really not for the faint of heart. Although many people, particularly men, they love to go fast and love to show how manly they are, this car separates the men from the boys, let's just say that. And like I said, there really is nothing like the soundtrack of a big, thumping, muscular V8. And one thing that the Mustang brings to the game that not many of its competitors have is a higher red line. This 5-liter V8 screams all the way to 7,000 RPMs. To give you an idea of how high that is, that's 1,400 RPM short of the 4-liter V8 in the BMW M3. And believe me, when this car gets going, it gets going. Now for our test drive today, I've selected the MT82 6-speed manual transmission, in the sense that it's the best for optimizing overall performance of this car. However, even on that same side, most people who have test-driven Mustangs have said that the automatic shifts just as good as the standard transmission. Although, in the long run, the manual transmission is the better option, in the sense that there's less moving parts and the only thing that you really have to worry about is burning out the clutch or frying your rear tires in this case. Now, speaking of soundtrack, one of the options that you do get for this Mustang is a standard Shaker 500 audio system. But be advised, you know, it does bump pretty good, it does provide a pretty decent soundtrack. But there's really nothing that sounds even better than that engine up front. Now, even in a stock 5.0 GT, where you don't get all the options like a leather-wrapped steering wheel, the premium white-faced gauges, all this aluminum chrome-clad trim, and all this other stuff, it really doesn't matter. I mean, this California Special, yeah, it's a nice-looking Mustang. It's got the beefed-up front end, the real nice suspension and everything. Even with a stock 5.0 GT, you are really put in touch with the car because of the fact that the Mustang was never meant to be a long-distance cruiser or anything like that. That category is more specified for the 6-cylinder version of this car. The 5.0 has always been meant for performance-oriented driving. It's meant to grab the road by the lapels and just eat it up in one big bite, so to speak. Just stick it in 6th gear here, so we just kind of cruise along now at about 50 miles an hour. And like I said, it was never meant to be a long-distance cruiser, but at the same time, it's perfectly content to just go on a little bit of a long road trip. Now, one thing that can increase your performance-oriented driving skills is the sport-assisted steering that I mentioned earlier. You have 3 different settings for the steering. You have a normal mode, which is like a kind of comfortable, lazy, around-town system that you can use to just kind of orient the car in sort of a fashionable manner. The sport driving mode, which we have now, sharpens the steering so you're really put in touch with the front wheels. And speaking of the front wheels, with that big 5-liter V8, like a lot of Mustangs before it, it carries 57% of its weight on the nose, which is why you really might want the aluminum strut bar if you're going to do a little bit more performance-oriented driving and not so much an around-town cruise. Now, I did mention that it will nail 60 in 4.5 seconds. To give you an idea of how fast that really is, the new 2012 GT 500 Shelby will hit 60 miles an hour in about 3.7 to 3.8 seconds. So about just over half a second slower than a GT 500. And that's the fastest Mustang you can buy on the market today without going into the aftermarket scene. Of course, now you've got things like Hennessy Performance and Roush Racing who are updating these 5-liter V8s to produce massive quantities of horsepower. Now, like I said, the Mustang is one that really gets your adrenaline going. So it's only when you put your foot in it that you can really experience the terror, as you lot are now about to experience. Let's see, let's adjust the settings of the car just real quick. Turn the traction control off. Fourth gear. Fifth gear. Oh my word. That is unreal. If that right there doesn't get your heart rate pumping, I don't know what will. As many of you YouTube viewers probably know by now, I do own a 98 V6 5-speed Mustang. But this is a whole different game. This car is enough not only to thrust you into the seat, but enough to damn near give an old man a heart attack. And I'm by no means old, but my heart's going a million miles an hour. Holy smokes. Gotta calm down there for a second. My adrenaline's like on overload. Didn't really want to be mentioning the competition, but one thing that many muscle car buyers will prefer over this car's main competition, the Chevrolet Camaro, preferably the SS version, is its greater advantage of visibility. Many people in the Camaro, and this is not bashing other automotive designs by any means, but when people have been talking about retrospect styling for these new muscle cars, it has to be said that Ford has done one of the best jobs out there. Only because of the fact that when you think about it, the Camaro really took its design from the late 60s. And the late 60s just provided the car with a little bit of a bigger kind of, a bigger problem, I should say, in the sense that the C-pillars are huge, okay? And that provides a very big blind spot for many people. Also, the fact that the windshield is a lot bigger in this car. I mean, yeah, it's raked away in terms of aerodynamics, but when you really think about, you know, in terms of visibility in a sports car that's so low to the ground, the Mustang really does nail it right on the head. Get a little jolt of power when you downshift the gears. I mean, it's just got so much grunt and so much power. It's enough to blow your mind. Unreal. I can guarantee you, not just from personal experience, but if you ever drive one of these Mustangs, you better have your underwear clean and stuff like that, because you are gonna, let's just leave it at that. But sadly, viewers, our test drive has now come to an end of this 2012 Ford Mustang GT California Special. I do hope you have enjoyed this thorough test drive, including an ultimate performance experience. And if you wish to find out more information about the California Special or any other Mustang in the group, please feel free to visit FordVehicles.com or take a visit to your local Ford dealer for an experience like no other. Other than that, stay tuned to Grand Prix GTPO2's channel for more reports, reviews, and test drives. And until then, viewers, have a great day, and I'll see you guys later.